Let's look at the 2-year note, up about a handful of basis points like the entire curve. Should it close here? Best close since about the 25th of September. You look at fives. Remember, 2s and 5s were under. They were under 145, actually under 140 for the 2-year. Look where they're at now. This has been a big rally. Let's look at 10-year note yields. They are at the best levels. Should they close here since around the 13th of September? Consider they were at 146. Right now at 185. It's been a big month. But by far, the leader of the interest rate pack to the upside, certainly had an up October, but their rally started in earnest at the end of August. Look at bond yields. End of August, they were minus 71. Cut in half. Cut in half. This has been huge. They are leading the way. We're going to continue to try to figure out how the Christine Lagarde regime will be different than Mario Draghi, because the market's certainly treating them different, and they're certainly treating some of the not so happy comments coming out of Germany as of late about Mario Draghi's policies. Times are changing for interest rates. Finally, the dollar index. Wasn't long ago, a little over a week ago, they were down to the lowest levels on a closing basis since mid-July. Now, they are building a bit of a rally, but we certainly have put a bit of a dent in this psyche of traders that were looking to see 100 more quickly in that dollar index. Carl, Jim, David, back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you very much. As you saw a moment ago, S&P record high as we're back above 3041. Year-to-date gains on the S&P back to 21%. You got the Dow up well above 27,000, up 189. Be sure to check out our podcast. Listen to the opening bell hour of Squawk on the Street at cnbc.com/podcasts or wherever you hear them. We're back in a minute.
The Bond Report.
Why is Lizzie going rental for Fizzy Haze? Is it because her flat is so beautiful and spacious? Snazzy! Or has roof terrace, garden and party room? Surprising! Or because it's 18 minutes to Paddington? Easy! With friendly staff on hand to take any deliveries? Amazing! Or just because her fuzzy friend can live there too? Find your new home at fizzyhaze.com. Fizzy Living, reinventing renting.
Right now, the future is being written by people like you. Creative thinkers, tech lovers, problem solvers. Are you going to stand by and watch? Well, show the world what you've got. Join others around the UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology. And earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards a degree. Don't let the future pass you by. Get involved. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price, just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum term as prices may change during contract. Box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Hurry to TradePoint. The 3 for 2 on all paint offer ends this Sunday. Plus, if you have loyalty discount, you'll get this on top. From Dulux Trade to Leyland Trade. Don't miss 3 for 2 on all paint at TradePoint. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. See tradepoint.co.uk.
Sean, tell us about your upcoming Shaun the Sheep movie.
Oh yeah, that was a good bit.
Really? I never looked at it that way. Wow, you do your own stunts. Wait, that's my line. See Farmageddon, a Shaun the Sheep movie as part of your year of endless adventures with Meerkat movies. Oh, spoiler alert. You just gave away the ending.
Qualifying purchase required. Tuesdays or Wednesday. Participating cinemas. Standard ticket only. Cheapest ticket free. One membership for 12 months. Conditions apply.
Time for Jim and Stop Trading.
You know, advanced micro reports on Wednesday, and when you put together the pastiche of what Intel had to say with what HP had to say away from printing, what you're hearing about the data center and some of the various real estate investment trusts I follow, I think it's going to be a blow up. and the stock's not reflecting that. I think it can go to all-time highs.
So we still think Texan's the outlier.
Texan was very much, they moved into Internet of Things, auto. They really felt it to be hamstrung by cell phones would be wrong. And then suddenly along comes Apple. Can't build them fast enough. Along comes a PC resurgence. We saw that from Microsoft. And the data center is just so strong, and Texas Instruments just doesn't have that business. The data center had a pause in spend, and now it's way back. It's really big, AMD.
As for the overall market, Jim, you hear the bulls argue that it's rare that you're this late in the year with these year-to-date gains and don't end the year even stronger.
Yeah, but what's surprising is there are a lot of mutual funds whose fiscal year ends right now, and you would expect a lot more profit-taking. We're just not seeing it. Look, this is a week that there could be a series. I mean, Alphabet could disappoint, Apple could disappoint. There's a lot of companies that report this week. It's certainly realistic after the big run that they would, but when you look at companies like Microsoft and Intel just doing so well, and then you go over and you look at Caterpillar and Honeywell and United Technologies, you struggle. You struggle to find things that you need some sort of political blow-off right now, where Wednesday the Fed does the wrong thing, so to speak, and just listen, we don't need to do anything, and then some sort of weak unemployment number, which means that the Fed got it wrong Wednesday. You need to see that's a series of mistakes that have to happen. And it's interesting, the president sure did. If we think that the president ran over the Pentagon to give that contract to Microsoft, we know that the president is adamant that the Fed has to cut rates. The dollar has been an undercurrent and a miss. If you want to know why every company's just now point blank just give you a look, here's the real currency. Because the dollar is just, we're getting crushed on any sort of blow up, any sort of
It's usually not the Fed's issue.
No,
but unless you
Fed,
want to be a currency manipulator.
Fed's rates are too high versus everybody else. Look, there are going to be people who do macro and don't do any homework, and lives are really much better than mine, who will tell you, look, that the Fed doesn't need to do anything. And when you go through all the companies, you do wish that the Fed would take it down a little bit more, and that why can't we have 4% growth? What is the reason why we can't have 4% growth? Why can't we?
He's doing it again.
You are. You're channeling.
He's running for Fed chair again. we all know it.
I'll take that job in a second.
I know you.
I want to serve.
I'm going to miss you.
It's about time I serve the
this and the Fed chair.
I'd like to serve the country. I've never denied that. My wife wanted me to do it a long time ago, but she was busy making pizza.
You got to wait for an election, and then I think
see my wife making pizza,
and then I think you got your shot.
See that on Saturday night? We're going to go out to dinner. She's making pizza. Unbelievable.
Well, maybe you can cut taxes again. Maybe then you'll get your 4%. We'll see you tonight. Mad Money, 6
crazy
p.m.
deficits. But
Jim's going to stick around for Virgin
Galactic. Why not? I feel like sticking around, frankly.
Dave, you here at the NYSE a few minutes ago. We'll talk to Sir Richard Branson, Shamath Palihapitiya, and George Whitesides in a moment.
The journey has begun.
They don't chant your name when you give blood, or sing songs about you. But patients and their families will remember you forever. Because your blood can change their lives. We need more blood donors in Tooting, the West End, and Edgware. Bleed for London. Join us today at blood.co.uk.
People have always told me I can be a bit wary of modern things.
Very true.
So when Jane suggested selling the house with purple bricks, I weren't happy.
No, you weren't.
You see, I don't like technology. I don't like the internet. I don't like moving house. I don't like their adverts. I don't like purple.
Luckily, I don't listen to him, and our estate agent Emma were perfect. She gave us her actual mobile number. She was always available.
Fine, they were great. Still don't like purple.
Purple bricks. You'll be totally sold.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing services cost extra. See website for more details.
Millions of people are missing out by having a current account that doesn't pay them any interest on their hard-earned money. TSB offers interest to all their Plus account customers for no monthly fee. Plus, you can stop your friends and family missing out by recommending the Plus account to them. And when they switch, you'll both earn £75. Search online or visit your local branch. Terms and conditions apply.
London London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
No one wants to get caught in the cold in London. We're with you. So our boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit to avoid a big chill to your wallet. You'll get a 5-year British Gas warranty. And now we can even quote by video call after work or weekends at a time that suits you. Get a quote by the 30th of November and get £150 off a new boiler or £450 off for existing home care customers. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with David Faber. Jim Cramer's here at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Take a look at the markets. All-time highs today for the S&P at least. We got 3041 and change. Dow still working on some progress, up 181. Our roadmap begins with that record high for the S&P on the busiest week of earnings. How investors should be playing the next few days.
Plus, the first publicly traded space tourism company, Sir Richard Branson, Chamath Palihapitiya, and Virgin Galactic CEO George Whitesides. They all join us first on CNBC.
Later on, Spotify CFO Barry McCarthy will join us for another First on CNBC interview, talk about the company's quarter and his upcoming departure. As we said, S&P new record high ahead of a busy week, including earnings from Alphabet and Apple, Facebook, Fed meeting in the middle of the week. Jim, we're going to get our first look at Q3 GDP. We're going to get a jobs number where we know GM will take some off.
Look, this was a week where we would have been very worried about Chinese tariffs. Isn't it interesting we don't hear anything about it? There were some announcements. I read a Chinese paper on Friday saying that the Chinese are about to formalize something positive on agriculture. My checks there indicate just kind of take it off the table and start focusing on the earnings again, which is rather incredible. You know what stock is up the most this year?
No.
Lam Research.
Really?
Now, that's a semiconductor capital equipment company that makes so that you have the best chips that go into data centers. And, so you're just kind of confounded this year. That now passed Chipotle, which, by the way, had a great quarter, but is being brought down by other companies that are not doing as well. The biggest loser right now in the S&P is Ventas, and that is a conservative guidance towards senior living. So there is so much that I guess I don't want to say to like, because that presumes that you can come in and buy Microsoft up 3.5. But we just don't talk about trade. The president has not been tweeting about anything involving anything other than what happened in the Middle East this weekend. And so the rancor seems to have diminished momentarily. I thought it was very interesting that the president kind of trashed Speaker Pelosi, because in the same sense of saying didn't speak to her, said that people leak, like Speaker Pelosi would tell someone on some bad guys.
Right.
But it became a benign moment. I keep thinking about what you said about this is the best day.
Historically the best day of the year for stocks. Well, bulls still want USMCA. Right. They don't want European auto tariffs. They want some Huawei waivers. They want this signing in Chile. I mean, 4 big trade things that need to go right in November.
There's much that has to go right, but we seem to be fixated on technology that is suddenly going right. I mean, look, I saw a recommendation of Roku today. I thought Roku was completely overdone. I mean, this is a cord cutting play. No, boom, someone hasn't recommended Roku in a couple of days, so it gets recommended. Microsoft, great quarter. You think it's done, right? Now, in the old days, we would have had the old days, meaning even just 6 months ago. Microsoft reports great quarter, and then it kind of sells off. I mean, Amazon was very representative. Amazon was down 120, closed down 19. Now, Amazon did lose the contract, or you can say Microsoft won the contract, but I just find the resilience of this market, Carl, is incredible. Resilience.
Yeah. That's with some QE in Europe and some repo operations here, you can get a lot done.
Yeah, when money's so cheap that Deere can borrow at 90 basis points over 30-year Treasury. Deere.
Even Netflix borrowed at pretty low rates comparatively.
I can't get those rates. By the way, I can't get those rates.
Yeah.
Obviously a big morning here at the NYSE. Let's get to Morgan Brennan with some special guests today. Hey, Morgan.
Hey, Carl, that's right. So public investors have been waiting a long while for a chance to invest in what I'll call this emerging new space economy. Today, Virgin Galactic makes its debut here at the New York Stock Exchange as a SPAC. You can see right now the stock's trading up about 5% right now. Joining me in a first on CNBC interview, Virgin Galactic founder Sir Richard Branson, Social Capital CEO Chamath Palihapitiya, and Virgin Galactic CEO George Whitesides. Good morning to you all. Congratulations. I think this is probably the first, fireworks, literally. It's probably the first time I've ever seen pyrotechnics on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
We like to make a splash.
Absolutely.
No, it's very exciting. We've had 15 years of developing Virgin Galactic to the stage where it's just put 5 people into space, and now it's wonderful to enable the public to come in and invest alongside us. And I've been here on this floor to launch Virgin Mobile, Virgin America, and 1 or 2 other companies in the years past. And it's all gone really well. And obviously, we hope that our spaceship company will go as well as the others.
In space, in the space business, there's a lot of talk about milestones and firsts. In terms of the fact that Virgin Galactic is now the first publicly traded space tourism company, commercial human spaceflight company, how big of a milestone do you think this is for commercial spaceflight?
I think it's a very big milestone. If the public wants to, take a little, dabble a little bit in a spaceship company or own a little bit of a spaceship company, they can now do so. We have this wonderful ticker, which I've never heard of the word ticker before, but STCE, and that's how people can...
I was impressed you got that, by the way.
Well, I'd love to tell the story, but I'm told I'm not allowed to. But it was actually the generosity of another exchange that let us have it. So, we've got off to a great start. The share price went up 11% on Friday and another 5% today, we've managed to completely fund Virgin Galactic through to when it breaks even, and so exciting time.
Yeah, and Chamath, as an investor in this company now, I know one of the things you've come on CNBC and talked about in the past is how impressive the gross margins are. Given the fact that service hasn't actually started yet, how are you thinking about those gross margins when it does, and what does that mean for profitability for this company?
I think the profitability of this business is going to look as good as one of the best software companies around, and that's why I was so excited. You're in the business of hardware, but it looks like software, and that is very different than many of the other technology-oriented hardware companies that have gone public recently. So this is a business that at scale will have almost 70% operating margins, which is incredible, and it's a testament to the $1 billion that Richard has invested before I came here, and then the team that George has built that's been able to build something that is largely now de-risked and ready to commercialize and monetize.
What do you think, especially now that there's going to be quarterly earnings reports, what do you think investors are going to want to hear from this company? I
think there's going to be 2 vectors that are really going to matter. The first vector is to describe the demand. So there are already 600 plus customers that have paid, $80 million, about $120 million of future business. There's 3,000 or 4,000 more after today. I suspect there'll be many more thousands after that who want to give us money. And so I think understanding that demand will be really important for people to get comfortable around the long-term projections. And then the second is about George's execution ability and his team's path to getting these rockets in the air on a more and more frequent basis.
Let's talk a little bit about that, shall we, George? I know the company is targeting next year to begin commercial service, 600-person backlog right now. How big is this market for suborbital space tourism? And I guess longer term, how many people are going to be paying $250,000 for a ticket to space?
Well, the exciting thing, Morgan, is that we're in the highest growth part of the luxury sort of services experience. It's out-of-home luxury experiences is the part that's growing the fastest. And that's basically what we're doing. And so, globally, we think around 2 million people can experience this over the coming years at this price point. And then, of course, over time, we'll be able to reduce that price point. And at that point, the market just explodes. Like it's 10 times as many to 40 million people. So we think it's like a huge market, and it's going to be capacity constrained for the near term.
Now, publicly speaking, there really is no direct comparable for Virgin Galactic. In the private market, there is one comparable company, and that's Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. How are you thinking about competition?
Well, I think what Jeff and the team over at Blue are doing is great. We think that we've got a really attractive service offering. But, ultimately, we think this is going to be a capacity-constrained market. Like, more people are going to want to go to space than either of us can bring in terms of service. So we think we've got an amazing experience from our runway takeoff to runway landing, and then a very safe rocket motor, and just a wonderful experience in space where people are going to be able to, have these amazing suits and float around the cabin and experience the wonder of looking down at planet Earth. So I think it's going to be a great market for both.
Of course, you're talking about the space suit, which I see Richard is wearing here. That was designed by Under Armour. You unveiled this a couple of weeks ago as well. One of the questions that gets put to me a lot by prospective investors is how do you know it's going to be safe? Right? And so when it comes to space, when it comes to space, I mean, space is hard. Human spaceflight, even harder. It's got to basically go off without a hitch, near perfect, no real room for error here. How do you ensure that that's the case, and what do you tell them?
Well, it's actually funny. I was a customer first, and so me and my wife are going to go. Chamath's going to go. Richard is, of course, going to be in the first commercial flight. So we're very confident that this is going to be a safe experience. Basically, what it comes down to two things is one is we've got a very safe architecture that can abort at any phase of flight. And the other thing is that we've tested it extensively. So really, our system has been in test for over 10 years. And what we've been able to do is just really drive up the reliability of the system so that we feel real high confidence in the system itself.
Yeah. Hypersonic travel has come up, this idea of point-to-point travel around Earth, and certainly seen, at least by some of the analysts that are starting to look at this industry as the big long-term opportunity. I know it's been discussed with Virgin Galactic as well. Was that always part of the plan when you started this company?
It was. The reason that one of the reasons that we built our spaceship like an airplane was because by flying this airplane at 3,500 times the speed of sound, sorry, not the speed of sound, 3,500 miles an hour, we're already testing a spaceship or an airplane that can travel from point to point at tremendous speeds. So we've just tied up with Boeing, and we're going to be exploring point-to-point travel with them. And I think the reason they invested in Virgin Galactic was because we've had 15 years of experience in this to date.
How much was the hypersonic piece of this puzzle the driving force for you to invest?
To me, it really represents the long-term optionality in the business. So the way to think about it is, today what we're buying is a really interesting, very lucrative, super high margin space tourism business, where we'll be able to take some of the profits to iterate on this other idea. Long-haul travel today, 10-hour plus flights, people are spending $300+ billion a year. And Morgan, a hypersonic plane can take a 10-hour flight and reduce it to 90 minutes. So the way to think about this is we're going to go and pioneer and really push this idea of space tourism, getting people to space. But as Richard said, once you do that, you get a test bed of technologies. We have a free option on hypersonics. And when we deliver a product in the 5 to 10 year time frame, we will be able to directly disrupt a $300+ billion revenue business for the airlines.
Wow.
I think one other important thing to point out is the environmental footprint of what we're doing. If you have a land-based rocket and you're sending people into space from the ground, it's going to use up an enormous amount of energy. By doing it the way we're doing it, we can put somebody into space for less than the environmental footprint of sending somebody on a Virgin Atlantic plane upper class to London to New York and back. And I think that's going to become more and more and more important in the years to come. So we're bringing the cost of putting people into space down dramatically as far as the environment's concerned.
Before I move on here quickly, George, when am I actually going to be able, as a customer, when would I actually be able to get offered and buy a hypersonic trip?
Well, I think you're looking probably in the maybe 5-year time frame, something like that.
But in the meantime, you can go to space with us.
That's right.
In the meantime.
And you get this thrown in.
Yes. It's very fashionable. fashionable. There's been a lot of commentary
very nice
on these
female one
shoes,
as well.
too.
Yep, the shoes are rather, well, I don't know,
Yeah.
they're sexy, but oh my God, I haven't done mine up. Right, that's better now.
So, Chamath, I want to get your thoughts because we've seen a number of companies go public this year. There's been a lot of talk, particularly coming out of Silicon Valley, that given the way shares of some of these big tech companies have traded, that the IPO process, the traditional IPO process, is broken. Given the fact that Virgin Galactic now just directly listed on the exchange through Social Capital's SPAC, do you see this as a model that other companies are going to adopt?
I do, and I hope that this is a really good litmus test and a case study of the best of what this can be. Pure technology companies, founded by iconic founders, built by great people who are like sober and just want money to build the business, should look at things like direct listings and should now look at things like SPACs. So I've been involved in two processes this year. One is a direct listing of Slack, where I'm on the board, and now Virgin, where I'm chairman after this transaction. Both of these two transactions got everything that we wanted to done. We avoided traditional processes in a way that limited management distraction, and now we're set up to just run the business. So this entire process for us, from start to finish, took 3.5 months. The company got all the money they needed, and George and his team has been able to focus on running the business, which is the most important thing. So I think these kinds of transactions and processes are the future. And I think a lot of that traditional oligopoly or monopoly run by Morgan and Goldman are probably, those days are numbered.
Yeah, and just because we're on the topic of this IPO process right now, I do want to get your thoughts. You came on CNBC back in September, talked a little bit, pretty critical of WeWork. A lot has happened since then. The ouster of Adam Neumann. We've seen SoftBank swoop in to basically take the company over. Do you think it's on a sustainable path now?
I still think that the big question is that they have $48 billion of lease obligations. And the way that they engineered this transaction was to avoid the fallout of that falling onto the SoftBank balance sheet. But this is a really precarious company. If there's any downtick in demand, any downtick, meaningful, these guys are going to have a very difficult time figuring out how to make the economics of what they've created work. That being said, the product market fit is unquestionable. And I think any company, large or small, probably doesn't want to sign a 10-year lease anymore. We would all love a beautiful office in a beautiful environment that's pretty turnkey. I just think that the way they executed it may turn out to be not sustainable.
Yeah. I think probably the exception there is Spaceport America, which is not an office and is pretty amazing down in New Mexico, which where Virgin Galactic will be headquartered. I also just want to get your thoughts on Facebook, too, because that's in the news. Between earnings this week, Mark Zuckerberg testifying on the Hill last week, a torrent of criticism and certainly scrutiny right now. Is it warranted, and what do you think it means for the company going forward?
I think that they're at a very difficult point, and it is the intersection of business logic and morality. And at some point, your morals and your ethics conflict with what the right business logic is, because if you follow your morals and ethics, you may make changes to the business that literally suppress the value of the business. The other alternative is just to say, you know what, let's just take a hear no evil, see no evil approach, and we're going to maximize business value.
They should do the right thing.
So far, their choices have been the latter, but I agree with Richard, they should do the right thing.
Yeah, but in the end, they'll survive much longer by doing the right thing, even if it has a short-term knock to their
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you.
And so just to bring this all back, speaking of trips back to space right now, given the fact that we do seem to be ushering in this new era of space, how are you thinking about it longer term? Because in addition to Virgin Galactic, you do have Virgin Orbit. And this idea of a so-called billionaire-led space race, is that the right way to think about it?
I'm afraid you do have to be in that sort of billionaire bracket if you're going to go into the space business. And I think it's good. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's good that people who've got money are investing in exciting new things, employing thousands of engineers, and pushing the barriers forward. So yeah, Virgin Galactic next year. We're going to have an incredibly exciting year. I'll be going to space, and other people will be going to space. And Virgin Orbit, which is not actually part of the Virgin Galactic company, that should have put a big rocket from a 747 into orbit, and start to put satellites around the Earth in a much more affordable, better way.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
If you need a journalist to take one of these trips to the edge of space, I would just like to throw my name in the hat. Congratulations on Virgin Galactic going public today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Guys, I'll send it back over to you.
Well done. Well done.
If you want to know how to go out on top, the man we're about to talk to is doing just that. Spotify turns up the user growth. Shares are soaring today as the world's top music streaming service posts sharply better than expected third quarter results. Company also announced, I'm bummed by this because I love the guy, that its CFO, Barry McCarthy, will be stepping down at the beginning of next year. Joining us now with more first on CBC is Spotify CFO, Barry McCarthy. Congratulations, Barry. When you do 113 million premium subscribers, up 31% year over year, I think people are finally realizing that you guys are just on fire.
Business is performing really well. No question about it.
Why?
So, can you remember Netflix in the era of when streaming first launched?
You mean when you were there?
Back in the day. It significantly expanded the TAM, right? Now pretty clear in video that linear dies, on-demand wins. Same thing is happening in audio. So, was a music service narrowly originally. Now it's an audio service. More occasions for use, more engagement. More engagement drives higher conversion, better retention, bigger lifetime value, virtuous cycle. Same phenomenon happening on a global scale.
And when I talk about global, it looks like areas like Southeast Asia, which people might think is not necessarily where Spotify would grow, are maybe the strongest areas.
Outperformed this last quarter, along with India as well, and LATAM. So we're hitting on a couple of cylinders at the same time.
Barry, when you guys did the direct listing soon after, I think you had an analyst day, talked to your investor base, or at least the one that was before. Before it. And you said, you can expect mid-30s, I think it was 35% maybe gross margins long-term for this business.
Yeah.
You're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to get there?
I think so. What we said was over time. So you might remember the stock rolled over in October of last year. And I think the reason it rolled over was because we said to investors, hey, don't expect the operating leverage that we've been demonstrating to continue in the future, because we're going to start investing in this thing called podcasting. And initially it'll be a tax on the P&L, but over time it'll increase the top of the funnel and we'll grow faster and be more profitable as a consequence. Now at Netflix, we had the same phenomenon happen when we began to invest in streaming. And we doubled that investment every year. And eventually the content became good enough that it became an accelerant on growth. But initially it's a tax on the P&L. And in our case, it's a tax on the cost of revenue. So it tends to depress gross margins. So we also said in our investor day that one of the reasons that we would be able to expand gross margin is the development of a two-sided marketplace, which we said more about in our investor letter today. And we'll talk more concretely about in terms of the impact on 2020 and future growth expectations and margin in the future. Now, that's mostly a software-driven product.
What is, you see this two-sided marketplace, and I'm not sure that many people understand what you mean. Can you just explain?
Yeah, well, like Netflix, we're in the business of owning demand creation. So serving content to you that our algorithms tell us you'll like. And if we do it really well, you experience it as a great user experience. You're not exactly sure why. You just know you find great music when you come to the service, or you find great podcasts when you come to the service. And so one of the features of two-sided marketplace, a product we just announced the rollout of in beta, enables us for artists who are releasing new albums to promote those new albums to their fan base on Spotify. Today, labels and their managers and artists don't have those tools available to them. They use mass marketing, which is a pretty inefficient spend, right? But we know exactly who the fan base is for a particular artist, and so we can promote that natively on our platform, like Amazon promotes natively on its platform, and get paid for it. Very high margins.
if we're going to use early Netflix as an analog, does that mean that we have a wave of new entrants still to come?
Maybe. It's a game for big boys. It's capital-intensive business. Scale matters greatly in terms of competitive advantage, something we spoke about at length at the Investor Day. And there's big spend on podcast content. Now, earlier I mentioned it provides an opportunity for margin expansion. Why? Because it shifts the cost from largely variable to fixed. Same thing happened in streaming at Netflix, right? The DVD business was variable cost, and the streaming biz was fixed cost. And there are opportunities to fix the cost in podcast and have exclusives in music. Jim, as you know, there are 50 million things available on the platform. Everybody's got the same stuff. So discovery drives a differentially better user experience on music, but in podcasts, you can have exclusive content. It's not just discovery, right?
No, and it's also booming. I know my agent says, Jim, it's time. The rewards, the people who are making money on podcasts. Well, I want to do it. Well, okay, we'll take that one offline. Hey, a lot of people think that Apple's got a big music business. It's small compared to what you have.
Well, they have scale in the U.S. The last publicly announced number, I think was, I can't remember if it was 50 or 60 million. And we think they're growing slightly, well, based on their public disclosures, growing slightly less than a million a month. So at about half the rate that we're growing globally. There are geographies in the world where their franchise isn't particularly strong and others where it's very strong. But in Latin America, it's not really a factor, by way of example. Pretty strong in the UK, although we're outperforming them there. So their primary footprint is U.S.-based.
How much do these the partnerships work? I think that help you. The AT&T partnership, we've been talking about AT&T all morning. That's got to be one. They're a big company. This must be just churning and positive.
Well, it hasn't been yet. Maybe they're a little bit distracted.
They got a lot going on.
They got a lot going on.
Although they're talking about their own margin improvement.
But they absolutely have the potential.
6 months free.
Right?
I mean, look, we're all big users. I love your product. If I could get it for free, I'd get hooked very quickly.
Yeah. Well, look, if they get behind it, it could have some help. We didn't happen to see it this quarter, but the important thing for us is to have a number of irons in the fire.
Right.
And several dials to turn, like we developed at Netflix.
How, back to gross margins, not the long term, but actually the current ones. There's some who believe because the ad-supported business was not as strong as the premium, that margins are better this quarter, but if ad-supported starts to move even more positively, you're going to see gross margins actually come down. Is that right?
The mix does impact the gross margin on the business, no question about that. But I think what you'll find is that there is operating leverage to be had in the free business as we begin to, let's say with podcasts by way of example, or natively promoted content of the two-sided marketplace to pump more revenue through the existing cost structure, which will, with no incremental content cost. Right. So it will be margin enhancing.
You mentioned the algorithm. How do you describe how sophisticated they are these days? Is it more than just classifying a song, giving it a half a dozen descriptions, and matching that? How smart is it?
Well, it started out as collaborative filtering. All three of you have similar tastes. They've liked a song that you've never heard of. They like it a lot. Pretty good bet you're going to like it. That's collaborative filtering, right? Now there's been this explosion investment in machine learning and deep learning, and now we're able to do things analytically and as a result, algorithmically, that we weren't able to do a couple years ago. And so it's getting dramatically better and really fast. I would say when I joined the service, it wasn't very good. It's a completely different user experience today. One of the big problems to be solved in podcasting is discovery. Like most of us here, if we listen to podcasts, probably found them word of mouth.
Right.
Very much. Come on. So now, as we gather more data on your podcast listening, we're exponentially better at recommending content to you. But there is a cold start problem. And so what we've done is to look to your music listening taste to help inform us about your podcast taste.
Really?
And surprisingly, it works pretty well. But a year from now, it will be much better. talking about podcasts, right? By way of example.
Are podcasts really going to become that important for you? I mean, Jim and I did interview Daniel Ek. I guess it's a while back now when you made the first of the significant acquisitions. But is it really going to become that important portion overall?
I used to get this question about streaming.
Do you really think it could be as important as originals are to Netflix?
Yes, long story short.
Okay.
It's a different value proposition, a different use occasion, but people listen to a lot of music, a lot of radio. So everything you consume on radio in the U.S., except for real-time programming like, sports, you're going to consume on demand, streamed, in your home, in your car, in your office, when you're commuting. Right? And there's a lot of that.
Barry, I think you're a relatively young man. You're going back to Northern California, staying on the board. Do you have one more act?
Well, I work is my hobby.
Right.
I'm embarrassed to confess.
No, you said that to me from the day I met you. The work is your hobby.
Yeah. So, I hope so. Time will tell. But you can't leave a business when it's not doing well. No. I announced my retirement from Netflix in 2004, and then the business got crushed by Blockbuster. The stock got crushed, and we announced I would unretire and recommit for 2 years. That turned into 6 years, and then in 2010, when I retired, the business was doing great again. And after I left, the stock went up tenfold. So you can't leave when your friends are in a knife fight. The business is doing really well, and Daniel hired me to do three things: get us in a position to go public, build a team that could perform at a high level in a finance function as a public company, and three was hire and train my successor. Okay, so I hired Paul Vogel 3 years ago. We've been working closely together since. I've increased his responsibilities every year since. Hired him to run IR and then FP&A. So if you like the guidance we've given, or at least our performance relative to the guidance we've given since we've been public, you can thank Paul. Gave him the treasurer responsibility. If you like the way we executed the direct listing, you're an admirer of his work. And he's a great cultural fit. He understands a deep understanding of the business. So if not now, when? Another 5 years?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Barry McCarthy, a legend, Titan CFO. So glad you came on the show. I think your stock's cheap, and best of luck to you.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Jim, thanks for sticking around a little bit longer today. What's on Matt tonight?
Well, you know what? I'm going to describe exactly what this contract means for Microsoft, because I think people don't understand it exactly what when you're in that business, that's the greatest business in the world. It's a cloud business. It's about making money. And wow. I don't know. I feel like you're 66. I wish you weren't retired.
You're giving him angst now. Yeah.
It's so existential looking at you.
Man, you got a long road to hoe.
And it's happening to all of us. All right.
Come to California with me.
All right, I will. Let's send it over to Sue Herrera now and get a CNBC News update at this hour. Sue.
Good morning, David. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. The European Union has agreed to grant Britain a new Brexit deadline until January 31st of next year. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson appearing outside 10 Downing Street as the news emerged. He posed for photos as he appealed to the public to buy a poppy for the upcoming 100th anniversary of Armistice Day. Firefighters in Northern California continue to struggle to get the upper hand on the Kincaid fire. It has already burned some 84 square miles, and containment of the blaze has dropped from 10% now to only 5%. Governor Gavin Newsom declaring a statewide emergency on Sunday. California Congresswoman Katie Hill has resigned amid allegations of an inappropriate relationship with a Capitol Hill staffer. That is against House rules. The House Ethics Committee opened an investigation last week. And Tiger Woods posting a final round 67 for a three-stroke victory at the inaugural Zozo Championship in Japan. It was his 82nd PGA Tour title, tying him with Hall of Fame member Sam Snead for the most all-time victories. Congratulations to him. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Carl, back to you.
All right, Sue, thank you very much. When we come back, stocks surging today to a new record high on the S&P. A big market week still ahead. Evercore ISI's chair, Ed Hyman's going to join us, talk about what to expect next when Squawk on the Street continues.
Teaching your kids how to save may not be this easy, but you can get them learning good habits and skills from an early age, thanks to the range of children's savings accounts from Yorkshire Building Society. Just another example of real help with real life. Find out more at ybs.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto-renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Touchdown, Minnesota. Heavily covered, touchdown into the end zone for the touchdown.
Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Quick throw out to the side, Taysom Hill across the goal line, touchdown.
But Robbie's got an airborne. Robbie Gold's field goal is good.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
To
it.
the sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
Time for our ETF Spotlight. Taking a look at the Tech Spider ETF this morning, ticker XLK. Another all-time high, as you know. Microsoft helping boost the sector on news that it did beat out Amazon for that Pentagon $10 billion cloud computing contract. Also watching Google pairing Alphabet, set to report tonight after the bell. Apple and Facebook are due out with results later in the week in what is the single busiest week of Q3 season. David?
Thanks, Carl. As we head to break, we're going to take a look at AT&T. Of course, you can see the stock is up sharply this after the company reported quarterly earnings, but more importantly, perhaps ended its battle with activist investor Elliott Management. And as we've been reporting, announced a 3-year outlook that calls for increasing margins by 200 basis points, revenues by 1 to 2%, significant return of capital through share buybacks, also selling off businesses worth perhaps as much as $10 billion, non-core, of course. So a lot of different things contributing to that upward move in the shares. We're back right after this.
ETFs.
She did it! Her first word! Go on, say it again for Mummy.
Dada. Mama. Oh. Savings.
Did you hear that?
Savings account.
Teaching your kids how to save may not be this easy, but you can get them learning good habits and skills from an early age, thanks to the range of children's savings accounts from Yorkshire Building Society. Just another example of real help with real life. Find out more at ybs.co.uk.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Witch Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that. Mind the gap. We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise.
so you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hearing is an underrated miracle. Intimate whispers, the lushness of symphonies, the soothing patter of rain on leaves. If you had that taken away from you, it would be a massive loss for most of us. Almost all of us go every day without really stopping to think about just how important it is to us.
Audible presents The Body, a guide for occupants, written and read by Bill Bryson, including original bonus material exclusively available at Audible. Listen free as part of your 30-day trial, $7.99 a month after 30 days, renews automatically.
Carl's all-change casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Markets continue to rally this morning. The S&P hit that all-time high at the open. Our next guest says he still sees global growth slowing. Evercore ISI Chairman Ed Hyman is with us to talk about where we've been today and over the past few months. Ed, welcome back.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so have we moved past enough trade obstacles to see a resumption of growth? It doesn't sound like you think so.
So we've definitely been in a global mini recession, and U.S. manufacturing has been in a recession. The U.S. economy has been okay overall, and the central bank is easing. There's no inflation really around the world, and that allows central banks around the world to keep easing. And you have balance sheet expansion along with lower interest rates. And you can tell if it's working by the extent to which stock prices go up. So today is a big day because the market's making upside breakouts, and that means that the monetary stimulus is working through the system, and we should see a bottoming in the slowdown in growth sometime in the next few months.
Really? So you think Q4 might be the bottom, or Q3? And what is the bottom in terms of U.S. GDP?
The bottom, don't pin me down on a date.
Okay.
but the bottom, that's probably about right. And growth it will bottom at about 2% for the U.S. You already see some improvement in housing, but the thing that's not being thought of right now with you and me is that house prices are doing better. So to the extent stock prices do better, house prices do better. And last week they reported that existing house prices were up almost 1% month to month in September and 6% year on year. So you have both stock prices and house prices doing better, and that lifts consumer net worth, which helps the economy with about a 2-quarter lag.
Ed, this idea of a bottoming, I wonder how much of it hinges on trade dynamics, and not just U.S.-China and seeing that maybe take a pause and not ratchet up, but also USMCA getting through Congress and everything we're seeing play out with Brexit.
So, it definitely plays a role in it. We've been at this now for 11 years, and I keep looking at the economic fundamentals, and the backdrop keeps changing on the geopolitical. Like in 2012, you had Europe go into recession, Greece almost went bust. And now you come forward and you have the problems with the trade and Brexit. And so those are a constant backdrop, and they're one of the reasons that central banks have been easier. But at the moment, it looks like the path of least resistance is for asset prices to go up, and that pushes ahead economic growth and sort of moves through those. Now, Trump has an agenda that he's watching for the election, and he needs to get some of these things bedded down if he wants to get reelected. And so you're getting some progress on trade in that regard.
Well, Ed, what happens if Powell says, given all of that, we're going to give you your October cut and that's all? What if the 10-year goes back to 2 instead of 1.5?
Well, I would like it if the 2 would go back to, if the 10-year would go back to 2. It's now 1.85. And I Our best guess is that Powell will not give a particularly dovish interpretation this week when they cut rates, as you're pointing out, or a particularly hawkish one. He's going to thread it in the middle there, leave options open to stop easing if he needs to. And as we all know, this will be the third rate cut, and that's been sort of the magic sauce in the 90s to get growth to stop slowing. For example, in 95, they cut rates 3 times, economy stabilized. They did it again in 98, economy stabilized. So they feel like they're in sort of familiar territory if this works out. And the stock market rallying is a suggestion that it is working out. And of course, with the economy doing okay, earnings are coming in okay. They're not strong, but they're enough to keep things moving ahead.
Right. It sounds like you think, people have said policy easing is losing its effectiveness. You look at what rates are doing. Look at the number of dissenters we're getting on the ECB. Rosengren and George may dissent this week. Doesn't sound like you think that argument is necessarily wrong.
So my base case is that the extent to which monetary policy works is the extent to which it pushes up asset prices, both stock prices and house prices. And we've already discussed that just now, and they're both doing better. So I think the Fed is, they have to be, pretty happy with what they're doing. And I don't think you have inflation yet, so the Fed can, be relaxed. And if they are too slow in tightening, if they're too slow in stopping, they can always go in and make up for it. If they shouldn't cut, then they can go in and reverse that. But at the moment, I think they're in a pretty good position, given all the circumstances.
Ed, 2019 is shaping up to be another year where it's been this value versus growth debate in the equity markets. I wonder where you fall in that debate and how you think it sets us up for 2020.
So, Morgan, I don't fall in that debate. It's not in my wheelhouse, really. And so let's move on to another topic. But
sure.
My main feeling is that monetary policy is working and the U.S. economy is okay and there's not much inflation. I would like to mention, guys, if I could, that the market still is climbing a wall of worry. Barron's had over the weekend a survey they do, and there were 27% of the people were bullish, and that was the lowest in over 20 years.
Well, finally, Ed, one last topic, I guess, one that makes sense is hopping from all the things we've discussed, macro and trade, to politics. How much of an anchor do you think that's going to be, either because of fretting about Warren or just general election angst in 2020?
It's a big anchor. And I think some of the developments over the weekend in the Middle East might put Warren at a slight disadvantage from where she was. But during the year, the market's going to trade a lot off of whether or not it thinks that Warren might win and the economic implications for asset prices in that regard. So it'll be something that we'll be talking about all year, if not now.
Yeah. Hey, we've already gotten a start, that's for sure. Ed, it's always great to check in with you. Thanks so much for your time, as always.
My pleasure.
A quick programming note as we go to break. Don't miss our coverage of Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg testifying on Capitol Hill tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. He'll be answering questions on the 737 MAX. In the meantime, we got more Squawk in the Street. When we return, the Dow's up 167 points right now.
It's a madhouse.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Hurry to TradePoint. The 3 for 2 on all paint offer ends this Sunday. Plus, if you have loyalty discount, you'll get this on top. From Dulux Trade to Leyland Trade. Don't miss 3 for 2 on all paint at TradePoint. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. See tradepoint.co.uk.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall!
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
One corner of tech is hitting all-time highs, and the top investor says the winning streak is just getting started. Find out more on tradingnation.cnbc.com. More Squawk in the Street is coming up.
So, Schwab, tell me about far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
To
it.
the sideline, the man bleeds for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Welcome back. The world's king of luxury, LVMH, looking to add Tiffany to its portfolio. And our Robert Frank joins us now with more. Robert.
Good morning, Morgan. Well, investors betting this morning that LVMH will either have to raise its offer for Tiffany or that there will be a bidding war. But either way, this is all about LVMH CEO Bernard Arnault solidifying his title as the king of global luxury. LVMH stock up almost 50% over the past year. That has added $28 billion to Arnault's personal wealth. And by the way, made him the third richest man in the world with just under $100 billion. And there's a reason they call him the wolf in cashmere clothing. When he wants something, he usually gets it. His acquisition spree growing LVMH to a $215 billion conglomerate with over 60 brands from Louis Vuitton to Fendi, Dior, Dom Perignon, and most recently Fendi Beauty by Rihanna. Jewelry and watches has become a big growth area after they bought Bulgari in 2011 for about $5 billion. Now, Tiffany would give Arnault an iconic brand that would go head-to-head with Cartier, that's owned by his French rival Richemont. But this is also a lot about China. Now, Chinese consumers account for about a third of all luxury spending in the world. It's expected to be half over the next 5 years. And Tiffany is a hugely popular brand in China, but the company was late to the market, and it's also been late to the shift in Chinese consumers buying less overseas and more at home. Now, Arnault has a strong relationship with the Chinese government. He was actually the first big luxury brand to open a store in Beijing in 1992. LVMH seeing a 16% jump in sales in the latest quarter, driven in large part by China. Also helping Arnault, Tiffany's CEO and one of its new directors both worked at Bulgari when Arnault bought it back in 2011. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, Robert, a couple of things just on the M&A back and forth to add here before I also sort of want to ask you something. But, they sent the letter October 15th. It's going to be a little while. I think probably a week is going to go by till we hear from Tiffany, perhaps a bit more. Their board is going to review it. They just hired advisors kind of the middle of last week. Arnault not expected to go hostile as in a proxy fight. And I'm told not going to hit the all-time high, which is 139.50. Now, all that being said, he's what, the second or third wealthiest man in the world?
He's number 3 now, just under 100 million, closing in quickly on Bill Gates. Now, briefly this summer, he actually did pass Bill Gates to become number 2, but he's right in there with Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, depending on what LVMH stock price does. You could easily see a case where he could become number 1 in the world. Now, David, I would point out your reporting was really interesting this morning because if they considered a big 2 years ago, this was when Jana Partners came into Tiffany and they appointed a board member who at that time was the CEO when Arnault bought Bulgari. So the timing of all this sets it up 2 years ago for this to happen.
Yeah, and as I think I reported as well, they have been thinking about this for over 2 years.
Exactly.
Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Frank. Let's send it over now to John Fort, get a look what's coming up on Squawk Alley. John.
Hey, David. Well, we're going to have an exclusive with FDIC Chair Jelena McWilliams. Talk FinTech and consumer protection. It's coming up in just a few minutes on Squawk Alley.
At CDW, I tell you what used to be fair, lunch. Used to walk past pubs and just see people laughing and merriment. What happened to those cheery days? I tell you what happened to them. It's been replaced by a pint glass sitting by a computer full of condiments, plastic cutlery, and a pair of chopsticks you use for fishing the noodles out your keyboard. It's just not fair.
At TalkTalk, fairness is important. That's why, unlike some other providers, we offer fixed-price plans on our fibre broadband for the entire length of your contract. Search TalkTalk Fibre. Fairer broadband for everyone.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home, and mum and dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner. The new Halifax Family Boost mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or catch it later on demand. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Dominic Chu. Stocks are continuing their march higher. The S&P 500 hitting a fresh record in early trading, and the Dow is less than 1% away right now. Strength in tech stocks is offsetting weakness in defense groups like utilities and real estate. But let's drill down on one of the other outperforming groups so far today. That's healthcare. That sector has lagged the broader market much of this year, but is now sitting just 2% off its recent highs in December of last year. Among those names leading higher today, you got genetic testing giant Illumina, also pharmaceutical names like Eli Lilly and Mylan as well, so watch those healthcare names. Now, I will, Carl, send it back downtown to you guys at the New York Stock Exchange.
All right, Don, thanks very much. When we come back, a lot more on today's rally. Dow session high up 210. We're up 148. Don't go anywhere.
Real-time
Far wing elevates. Triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR Network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, College football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Doctor coverage, with Part D prescription drug coverage, and more, all in one simple plan. For a low monthly premium, or in some areas, no plan premium at all. Take advantage of primary care doctor visits, preventive dental care, and an eye exam, all for a $0 copay. Plus, earn rewards for completing other preventive care activities, like flu shots and annual physicals. You could also get over $150 in free health and wellness products. So now's the time to look at United Healthcare's variety of plans, and let us help find the one that works best for you. Also ask about our PPO plans that let you see any doctor who accepts Medicare without a referral, and take advantage of in-network costs, at home or traveling, when you see doctors in the United Healthcare Medicare National Network. With many of our Medicare Advantage plans, you'll have $0 copays on the most common prescriptions. In fact, last year, our Medicare Advantage plan members saved an average of over $6,500. And with Renew Active, enjoy a free gym membership and up to $115 in rewards for staying active. You can count on our guidance and support to help you get the most out of your plan. We can also help you schedule appointments or find a specialist. Annual enrollment ends December 7th. Start taking advantage of all the benefits of the only Medicare Advantage plans with the AARP name. We make it easy to enroll too. So call United Healthcare or go online today.
Halftime Report. Weekdays noon Eastern on CNBC. Beyond meat, beyond expectations. Up 300% since the IPO. The CEO dishes on the company's latest numbers. First on Squawk Box tomorrow.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. at Virgin Galactic Spaceport in New Mexico. It's 11 a.m. on Wall Street, and Squawk Alley is live.
Let me take you
Squawk Alley. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Morgan Brennan, John Ford at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Got some record highs today, but we're going to start with a big win for Microsoft, beating out Amazon, Oracle, IBM in that hotly contested $10 billion defense contract with the Pentagon. It's known as JEDI. Morgan's been covering this story from the beginning, and a lot of news over the weekend.
A lot of news over the weekend on this. This was a downright dogfight. This was really between Microsoft and Amazon. 2 years laden with controversy. What is the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, or JEDI, contract? Well, this is the Pentagon's winner-take-all cloud contract to unite the entire U.S. military within a single data framework. It's basically an umbrella cloud for all of the military's current clouds. Up to 10-year contract with ceiling value of $10 billion. Amazon, Microsoft, and earlier in the competition, IBM, Oracle, even Google vying for this. And Microsoft saying, quote, "We look forward to expanding our longstanding partnership with DoD and support our men and women in uniform at home, abroad, and at the tactical edge with our latest unique and differentiated Azure cloud capabilities." Amazon, in a statement, saying, quote, "We're surprised about this conclusion. AWS is the clear leader in cloud computing, and a detailed assessment purely on the comparative offerings clearly led to a different conclusion. Amazon had been seen as the front runner for this, so Amazon can protest the outcome. Experts say it has grounds to, especially given the unusual and unprecedented comments by President Trump. But Amazon hasn't said if it actually would or not. The DoD saying, for its part, that, quote, the process cleared review by the GAO and Court of Federal Claims. At the outset, the competition included 4 different offerers. All offerers were treated fairly and evaluated consistently with the solicitation's stated evaluation criteria. They put out a very long statement. They also added that additional cloud contracting opportunities are anticipated from a financial standpoint. Really, the way to think about this, it's a bigger win for Microsoft than loss for Amazon, and that's kind of what's playing out in the shares right now for Amazon. $9 billion in revenue reported for AWS last quarter alone, but for Microsoft, this is big bragging rights. According to analysts, it's a sign that Azure is catching up, and it is really the latest DoD win for Microsoft, which snagged a $480 million contract last year to supply HoloLens AR sets to the Army, and was also a beneficiary of the $7.6 billion General Dynamics One contract in August to replace IT systems with Office 365. So I think this competition was a lot closer than maybe some people had been realizing. And we're going to see how it plays out. The timeline, I think, is going to be long, especially if Amazon does put some sort of protest in here, but you can see it playing out in the stocks.
I don't know if you can say it's a bigger win for Microsoft than a loss for Amazon. It might be kind of because this is, cloud is Amazon's thing.
Yeah.
They just put HQ2 in DC. And a lot of people expected them to win this, but interesting. I've been sniffing around a little bit on Microsoft's side, trying to understand what this means from their perspective. They found out about 3 p.m. Eastern time on Friday that they had won the contract, just a little bit before the world found out from the press release. Unclear exactly when the revenues start to flow, or even when the whole scope of work becomes clear for the first stage of this, but we would expect to hear about them meeting with the government maybe the end of this week to start that process going. Also unclear what's more valuable, the contract itself, which is, as you mentioned, enormously valuable, or the bragging rights associated with it that allows Microsoft to tout the fact that it got this contract for other government work, both in the U.S. government, with the states, and abroad. In the enterprise game, being able to put forth your wins as case studies is just a big part of it. Thomas Kurian over at Google Cloud set up this whole white glove area within his sales force just for handling big customers because of the follow-on effects that can come from things like this. But Microsoft would tell you that 18 months ago, when the information about this contract came out, they didn't look like they were in the running really strongly to win it, and Microsoft really worked on getting certifications. They would say 90 certifications to compliance certifications to really edge
for the
out
highest
potentially
security rankings, level 6,
other competitors. So we'll see how this goes, particularly with the marketing follow-ons here.
It is the leading Dow component, almost got to 146 this morning. Of course, this comes as CNBC reports the president told the former Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, to, quote, screw Amazon on that contract. That's according to an insider's account. Kara Swisher's here at Post 9 talk more about this deal, what it means to whom, whether you have suspicions about the process.
Yes, I do. Luke, I see lawyers. The force is with the lawyers. I think this is going to be challenged.
Really?
Yeah, I think some of these statements that Trump has made on not just in this case, which was interesting and not surprising, but also online. He does it on Twitter all the time, calling it, Amazon Washington Post, and the links he's made and the comments he's made about Jeff Bezos. They were a front runner until these comments started happening. So you've got to wonder if there was any kind of, the same thing that happened with Trump and AT&T around related to CNN. It's the same meddling, the same kind of meddling and acting as if the government is his fiat. Which is not.
Assuming it's a clean process, it's a big deal for Azure, right?
Absolutely, it is. But if I was Amazon, I would be wanting to have some discovery happening, I would imagine, and to depose some people about what was said and how it was said. And so I think the question is, do they want to get messed up into it, or not? But this is a big deal. So this is something that Amazon was absolutely in the front the most certified. I think they had all the it's not to take anything from Microsoft, but it might not be a fair fight here.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly part of the reason Amazon was seen as the front runner is because they did already have I guess you could call it a similar contract with the CIA as well here. I mean, there's a few ways that this could play out, right? If Amazon protests, they could do that through the GAO. If the GAO says, votes in favor of the way the competition is played out already, they could take it to the court system and basically file a lawsuit, which, by the way, is a similar situation that we saw play out with Oracle before we got this award. But in general, and different analysts sort of have different numbers out there on how much U.S. government cloud contracts could represent in the coming years. I've seen numbers as high as $100 billion.
Sure.
It does seem like, regardless, that this is going to be Amazon versus Microsoft for many of these future deals.
100%. The question is it a clean thing? And if Trump is there trying to put his thumb on the scale, that's a problem. And, it'll be the most expensive that Jeff Bezos ever paid for the Washington Post. You know what I mean? It has these repercussions. And so the question is, what do they do when they're in this situation? Do they continue to try to compete and stay quiet about it? And what precedent does it set for the president to be saying things like this? Like to be saying, screw, if this is true, this reporting is true, which sounds like he started to do it with the post office. He does it with the Washington Post and everything else. And so the question is, are these clean, even if they're not quid pro quo, it's like, wow, the president saying something like this does have the force of something.
It does put Amazon in a tough position because they are making this big investment in the D.C. area. They want to be a federal contract player.
Right.
Do they want to create more dust around this in particular when there's a lot more technology contract work to be had, even around the edges of Jedi? They could end up being a significant winner, even though they're not the headline winner here. So we're going to learn something about Amazon as an enterprise and government player from how they respond to this and how out front they are.
But this is how corrupt organizations work. This is what happens. What if he is in 4 more years and there's more contracts? So the question is, what do you do is a very good question for Amazon. I don't know what I would do, but if there is proof of this, they certainly might want to do it. If they don't, they just move along and just say it's okay, and then start to kiss up the administration. The whole thing is just not great. It's not a great way to win. That said, Microsoft has made a lot of strides with Azure, and that they've kept quiet off to the side. They didn't go buy a newspaper. They didn't get in the crosshairs of Trump, and so that's the question: is how much involvement was here, or just a lot of bluster, and that's really what they have to find
Separate
out.
from Jedi, given the AWS numbers we got last week.
Amazing.
I mean, it's a dogfight in cloud. It's crazy, right?
It is. And for a long time, Amazon was by itself, right? And Google hadn't been there. I remember having a lunch with Sundar Pichai, and he was like, oh, we were late to this because we were busy doing other things, and it turned out to be the best business of all. And I think the question is, does this spin off? That continues to be the question of whether AWS, and I interviewed Andy Jassy this year, and they were saying no. They're giving the signals no. But if it would spin off, it would be one of the most valuable companies in the world, right? Something like that. And so where does that go? And there's so much opportunity, not just in the U.S. government, across the world for all these companies. And the question is, who's going to be dominant? And who's going to be a laggard? Oracle used to be the one here and stuff like that.
We're going to find out more tonight with Alphabet. Even more. The picture fills in just a little bit more. Thanks for starting off the hour.
No problem.
Good seeing you. Kara Swisher.
And coming up, the market rally continues this morning. Another intraday record high for the S&P. We discuss where stocks go from here. And later, Sir Richard Branson with Chamath Palihapitiya on Virgin Galactic's debut, Facebook, IPOs, and even WeWork. Stay with us.
I still think that the big question is that they have $48 billion of lease obligations. And the way that they engineered this transaction was to avoid the fallout of that falling onto the SoftBank balance sheet. But this is a really precarious company. If there's any downtick in demand, any downtick, meaningful, these guys are going to have a very difficult time figuring out how to make the economics of what they've created work.
Johnson & Johnson.
They don't chant your name when you give blood or sing songs about you. But patients and their families will remember you forever. Because your blood can change their lives. We need more blood donors in Tooting, the West End and Edgware. Bleed for London. Join us today at blood.co.uk. aldi.co.uk.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back.
You're a small business owner and there's nothing small about what you do. That's why Dell Small Business Technology Advisors give you trusted advice and tailored tech solutions, like computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, and networking, plus industry-leading monitors and software. No matter your technology needs, Dell is here to help your small business do big things. Call 0800 085 4878 to speak with an advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Well, we got another S&P record high. All the major averages well in the green. Who better than Bob Pisani to join us here and break down the market action?
So we've got a number of things that happen. First, we've got, most important thing, trade talk optimism. Some comments from the Chinese side over the weekend that they're making progress towards this phase one deal. That's the most important thing. Second, we've got the Fed coming up this week. These are the two marginal movers of the market, trade talk and the Federal Reserve. I think the Fed's going to cut. I think they're going to try to be very cautious on implying any future rate cuts, and maybe the market will have a problem for that. But for the moment, this is good news. And the third one, the U.S. consumer is holding up. Kirsten and I, my producer, we reviewed all of the conference call transcripts. 40% of the companies have reported. There is remarkably little talk about concerns about a recession in 2020. It's all about the consumer holding up. Richard Fairbank, the Capital One CEO, this is basically a credit card bank that's out there. He said, I think the U.S. economy and the U.S. consumer is in pretty good shape, and that's what most CEOs are talking about right now. We scanned for concerns about recession talk out there. We didn't see it. Harris Simon, the CEO of Zions Bancorp, we don't see any indications of a broad-based recession on the horizon. That is very typical of the commentary. So we did see some concerns about some slowdowns in 2020, particularly on the industrial side. But on outright recession, it's just not there. So with the consumer holding up, trade talk good, and the Fed cutting, this is why we're sitting at new highs.
So we're in the middle of earnings season, Bob, and you didn't really cite earnings as a big factor here. What does it say when the guidance is all about Q4 and you're like, well, it's about this other stuff?
That's a good point. Very good point. So the corporate earnings are flattish. That's the word I've been using all year. I think that's fair. And I think it's fair to say going into 2020, there were hopes for 10% gains, now closer to 5%. So now the bulls are saying, okay, can we still advance the market with 5% gains? That may be a little bit tougher right now. That's why the risk to the market is downside. By the way, that's why you're seeing things like not a lot of volume as we hit new highs today. You remember the old days when we'd hit a historic high, all of a sudden there'd be a volume push because new buyers would come in? We're not seeing that right now because a lot of people see flattish earnings and the risk more to the downside. In other words, what would it take to move the market up 10%? An awful lot of good news. What would it take to move the market down 20%? Well, you could get some things out there that could happen. A real escalation in the trade war, that could happen. That could move the market down a lot. The point is, when you're this high, the risk is a little bit to the downside with earnings this flattish. So you're absolutely right, John, and that's what everybody says. Hey, Bob, where's the earnings? You're all doing this happy talk, and we're just seeing flattish earnings, and the market's up 18% this year. That's hard to justify right now. The multiples are high.
We talk so much about the IPO market and how many of these high-flying, tech unicorns and other types of, highly valued companies have performed since they've gone public. Certainly some discussion around whether the pipeline was closed for the year. Meantime, and I realized it was not a traditional IPO. This happened for a SPAC. But you got Virgin Galactic going public this morning. It's up 6% right now. This is not a company that is yet profitable. Service hasn't even begun yet. But the fact that you see a pop in a name like this today, what does it tell you about how public markets are feeling about some of these names that are coming to market?
First off, the public is rooting for space in general. You and I were talking about this earlier. I am. I mean, I grew up in the 60s with the space program and the Apollo mission. We all believe in space. We want mankind to go out into space. So generically, this is me talking. I'm rooting for the company to succeed. I don't know if it will succeed, but I want people who are involved in the space business to succeed. I want other people to be involved in this. And people down here on the floor feel the same way, and talk to everybody out there. We want more involvement in space. We want mankind going out. We want mining of asteroids, more things like that. And so generically, there's just a lot of interest in this. I would also point out defense and aerospace stocks in general, which is a subset here, are doing really well this year.
Yeah, they certainly are. Bob Pisani, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Well, still to come, you just heard us mention it, Virgin Galactic going public. More from my first on CNBC interview with Sir Richard Branson, Chamath Palihapitiya, and Virgin Galactic CEO George Whitesides. That's next. But first, take a look at Spotify. Surging, on track for its best one-day gain on record. Stock's up 16.5% right now. We're back in 3.
So it's not fair. Self-service checkouts. Let's forget the fact you're now working on a supermarket checkout. As soon as you put anything past the scanner and placed it down on that bagging area, you literally just nudge. Literally, a blueberry falls out the bag. And it's going, thanks to getting assistance. You need assistance. And now you've got to wait there for hours because everyone else is moving things. It's just not fair.
If you want fair, you want fibre broadband from TalkTalk. Search TalkTalk Fibre. Fairer broadband for everyone.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back, alright.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want football, how about the Premier League? Or crime dramas? I've got loads. And they're never going to guess who did it. Or how about thrillers? They're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto-renew, terms apply.
You're a small business owner and there's nothing small about what you do. That's why Dell Small Business Technology Advisors give you trusted advice and tailored tech solutions, like computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage and networking, plus industry-leading monitors and software. No matter your technology needs, Dell is here to help your small business do big things. Call 0800 085 4878 to speak with an advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or watch it later on demand, anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Swinging a long drive, left field, he's got one now. Kurt Suzuki gives the Nationals the lead.
The excitement of the Fall Classic is here, and you can hear every call of the 2019 World Series on TuneIn Premium. The action continues this Tuesday with Game 6 between the NL champion Washington Nationals and American League champion Houston Astros. Listen live at 8 Eastern as two of Major League Baseball's most storied franchises look to bring home the World Series title. The 2019 World Series is on TuneIn Premium.
Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today.
With Europe turning back the clocks over the weekend, the Euro close is going to move back 1 hour until we can follow suit next weekend. So you can catch more on today's market movers overseas at noon on The Half. We're back in a moment.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
far wing. Elevates. Triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
To
it.
the sideline. The Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Welcome back to Squawk Alley. Hundreds of thousands of people forced to evacuate as massive wildfires ravage Northern California. Our Jane Wells is there in Healdsburg with the latest. Jane.
Hey, yeah, well, we've also got fires in Southern California now. The sun is coming up here in Healdsburg. You can see how this fires have really damaged these world-famous wineries and vineyards here. And this is the winery, very well-known, Soda Rock, completely destroyed. One of about 100 structures destroyed in the Kincaid fire. We have new numbers, 66,000 acres, 186,000 people evacuated. That's really unprecedented here. 80,000 structures still under threat and 0 deaths. 0. But right now I want to show you a map of the power outages that are still in effect here. Yes, in the old days, a disaster caused a power outage. Now you turn off the power to try to avoid a disaster, even though this fire may have been started by a power line that was not turned off. And about 90 minutes ago before dawn, we went driving through this area, through the fire zone, and we took a stop. This is such a well-known wine tasting area, so many vineyards really up in flames. And we stopped off at one of the vineyards, the Chalk Hill Vineyard, and it turns out it could actually be a good day for firefighters. The winds were calm Monday morning and the temperatures got cold, which slowed the progress of the fire. But a new wind event is expected to start on Tuesday. And PG&E is telling many people that it will not be worth it to turn on the power until that second event blows through. Meantime, yes, a new fire now in Los Angeles breaking out on the west side in an area, by the way, which burned 2 years ago. SoCal Edison is threatening over 300,000 people down there with having to turn off power. There have been a lot of evacuations, including LeBron James, who tweeted that he's driving around trying to find rooms, quote, no luck so far. He eventually did find a room. People are now starting to talk about battery systems because even if you have solar power, you're still attached to the grid, so things like the Tesla Powerwall is being talked about. But these things can cost well over $10,000. And as for PG&E, which is in bankruptcy, its stock taking another hit today. But also look at its 15-year bonds. They were positive, as sort of a sign of faith that maybe the company would last longer in the long term. Those have now turned negative, and the governor, who's declared a state of emergency across the state, has now reportedly asked Warren Buffett, begging him to try and maybe buy PG&E out of bankruptcy. Guys?
It is such a difficult situation, Jane. Our Jane Wells, who's been up early, helping us understand what's happening out west. Jane, thanks. Speaking of all of this, we were planning to bring you an interview with Snap's Evan Spiegel today. That's been made impossible because of the fires and a number of the road closures in California. We are working to reschedule that appearance. In the meantime, let's get a news update with Sue Herrera back at HQ. Sue?
Carl, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. President Trump says he is considering releasing video footage of the raid that killed Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in Syria on Sunday. He was speaking at Joint Base Andrews before leaving for a fundraiser in Chicago.
We're thinking about it. We may. The question was, am I considering releasing video footage of the raid? And we may take certain parts of it and release it, yes.
The driver charged with manslaughter in the deaths of 39 people found in the back of his truck made his first court appearance in Britain. Maurice Robinson did not enter a plea. He will be kept in custody until he appears at a higher court on November 25th. NASA has released a photo, take a look at that, of the sun seemingly in the mood to celebrate Halloween. It says active regions on the sun combined to look something like a jack-o'-lantern's face. The image was captured on October 8th by the Solar Dynamics Observatory. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Guys, I'll send it back downtown to you. Morgan?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Sue Herrera, thank you.
That's not the sun's good side. That looks a little scary.
No, but just it's Halloween week. I mean, it's an interesting image. All right. Sue, thanks. Take a look at shares of Virgin Galactic, up big this morning after becoming the first ever space tourism company to go public. You can see shares are up right now 4%. I sat down with founder Sir Richard Branson, investor Chamath Palihapitiya, and CEO George Whitesides earlier in a First on CNBC interview to discuss the debut. Take a listen.
I think it's a very big milestone. If the public wants to, take a little, dabble a little bit in a spaceship company or own a little bit of a spaceship company, they can now do so. We have this wonderful ticker, which I've never heard of the word ticker before, but STCE, and that's how people can...
I was impressed you got that, by the way.
Well, I'd love to tell the story, but I'm told I'm not allowed to. But it was actually the generosity of another exchange that let us have it. So, we've got off to a great start. I mean, the share price went up 11% on Friday and another 5% today, we've managed to completely fund Virgin Galactic through to when it breaks even, and so exciting time.
Yeah, and Chamath, as an investor in this company now, I know one of the things you've come on CNBC and talked about in the past is how impressive the gross margins are. Given the fact that service hasn't actually started yet, how are you thinking about those gross margins when it does, and what does that mean for profitability for this company?
I think the profitability of this business is going to look as good as one of the best software companies around, and that's why I was so excited. You're in the business of hardware, but it looks like software, and that is very different than many of the other technology-oriented hardware companies that have gone public recently. So this is a business that at scale will have almost 70% operating margins, which is incredible, and it's a testament to the $1 billion that Richard has invested before I came here, and then the team that George has built that's been able to build something that is largely now de-risked and ready to commercialize and monetize.
What do you think, especially now that there's going to be quarterly earnings reports, what do you think investors are going to want to hear from this company? I
think there's going to be two vectors that are really going to matter. The first vector is to describe the demand. So there are already 600 plus customers that have paid, $80 million, about $120 million of future business. There's 3,000 or 4,000 more after today. I suspect there'll be many more thousands after that who want to give us money. And so I think understanding that demand will be really important for people to get comfortable around the long-term projections. And then the second is about George's execution ability and his team's path to getting these rockets in the air on a more and more frequent basis.
So Virgin Galactic directly listing today through this merger with Social Capital ahead of Sophia, which was a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company, rather than going through the traditional IPO route. I asked Chamath about the process and what it means for other private companies looking to trade on the public market. Take a listen.
This is a really good litmus test and a case study of the best of what this can be. Pure technology companies, founded by iconic founders, built by great people who are sober and just want money to build the business, should look at things like direct listings and should now look at things like SPACs. So I've been involved in two processes this year. One is a direct listing of Slack, where I'm on the board, and now Virgin, where I'm the chairman after this transaction. Both of these two transactions got everything that we wanted to done. We avoided traditional processes in a way that limited management distraction, and now we're set up to just run the business. So this entire process for us, from start to finish, took 3.5 months. The company got all the money they needed, and George and his team has been able to focus on running the business, which is the most important thing. So I think these kinds of transactions and processes are the future, and I think a lot of that traditional oligopoly or monopoly run by Morgan and Goldman are probably, those days are numbered.
It was a wide-ranging interview. We talked about a number of topics, including the long-term game plan for Virgin Galactic, which could and probably will involve hypersonic and supersonic travel around Earth as well, and what that could mean. George Whiteside's the CEO of Galactic also telling me, because I asked what he thinks the size of the space tourism market is and whether there are enough people out there longer term willing to pay $250,000 for a ticket to the edge of space. He said, globally, we think around 2 million people can experience this over the coming year at this price point. Over time, we'll be able to reduce that price point, and at that time, the market's going to explode. That it will be capacity constraints near term, that basically there is enough for both them and their most direct competitor in this emerging market, Blue Origin, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, to take all of these potential space tourists to space.
Chamath talks about it being de-risked. It's not risk-free.
No.
What happens if there's an incident of any kind in the early going? How badly could that derail demand?
And, we've heard that phrase used over and over again, this idea that space is hard in terms of human space flight. I mean, there's basically no margin for error. You have to get it perfect. They talked a lot about that. I asked that question. They talked a lot about how much is going into safety and basically buttoning everything up to be able to start this service, which is expected next year. But this is probably the chief risk that investors will have to now consider looking at this first ever publicly traded commercial human spaceflight company.
And I mean, it's a moment in time. Think about it. This is a spaceship company.
Yeah.
Space tourism, it has come public, and WeWork, a commercial real estate company, can't get out. Right? Like, in terms
which
of what
we talked
people
about
value,
with Chamath Palihapitiya as well in that interview.
Valuations, ambition, just kind of where we are. It's an interesting year, to say the least.
It is. Meantime, shares are up about 3%, so off the highs of the morning, but still higher for a company that has not yet started service and which is not yet profitable, despite some of those pretty strong forecasts for growth and gross margins that we did hear from those investors.
All right, now bringing things back down to earth, so to speak.
Oh, boy.
Well, we had to transition somehow. Well, first I stopped wearing ties. Am I going to have to stop tucking in my shirt next? The CEO of Untuck It joins us here at Post 9 to convince us. But first, Rick Santelli with his shirt tucked in. What are you watching today?
What I'm watching is the data hasn't been really spectacular. You think about last week's data, but yet interest rates continue to rise. Are bonds really the smartest sector in the room? I'm not so sure anymore. We'll talk about it after the break.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want horrors, no problem. It's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Movies, I've got blockbusters. Or how about thrillers? They're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school, tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat, but not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Hi, I'm back. I just set a personal best on my park run. Feels great.
That's lovely, Mike. I think you've earned the right to put all the bins out.
Hey?
With Vitality Life Insurance, you get properly rewarded when you're active. In fact, you could save over £730 every year in discounts and rewards from our partners. Join over 1 million customers. Just search Vitality Life. Vitality. Positively different. Annual savings available with certain plans and are dependent on members' usage of rewards available. Terms and conditions apply.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
Single...
And goal!
game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Touchdown, Minnesota. Grab by heavily covered. Dives into the end zone for the touchdown.
Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Quick throw out to the side. Taysom Hill across the goal line. Touchdown.
But Robbie's got an airborne. Robbie Gold's field goal is good.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Far wing elevates. Triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
I'm Scott Wapner. Here's what's coming up. Halftime report, top of the hour today. The monster week for your money. Stocks hitting a new record high. Earnings and the Fed taking center stage. And some say we're about to have that long-awaited breakout. We're going to debate that. Plus a big call on high-flying Lululemon. Is it time to book some profits? Our investment committee weighs that big question. And the biotech stock making news later today. Likely to make a monster move up or down. Our Meg Terrell with her reporting to get you ahead of that. That and more when we see you at noon. Carl, we're about 20 away, and we'll see you then.
Sounds good, Scott. We'll see you then. Let's get to Rick Santelli in the meantime and get the Santelli Exchange. Rick.
Good morning, Carl. You know, markets are different than they used to be, and they're not different because we use more computers or there's more algorithmic trade, although that does make a huge difference. Platforms make the methodology, how markets arrive at price discovery different, how they act, how choppy they are. But in the end, the one constant that used to always be in the marketplace is that those traders in the interest rate complex and how interest rates domestically and globally divine data. That's what you want to really pay attention to, and that the generic economy isn't necessarily always represented fairly by the stock market. All still true, but the difference is it certainly seems as though 10-year notes, like many interest rates, have kind of lost their GPS, whether it's policy, whether it's the yield curve distortions, whether it's how many bills we're issuing and the liquidity facilities distortions. But one thing now seems to have emerged that's pretty hard to argue against, and that is the stock market and European rates are having an outsized influence on our treasury rates. I mean, look back to last week. Somebody's newsletter, and I don't mean to take your phrasing, I can't remember which one, but they said the treasury market isn't taking the bait of some of the softer reads like durable goods last week. And that's well said, because what it really seems to be paying most attention to, and let's go to the board, first of all, these charts all start in July 1st. Now, it isn't so much about dates. It's more about patterns, okay? So we know there was consolidation in August in all markets, whether you're looking at the S&Ps, Boone's 10-year or 10-year notes. But the point is, we see that the stock market is blowing out its intraday historics. So the stock market has a big influence, but I really think Boone deals are where you want to pay the closest attention. Whether it's the difference between European credits, and of course that's the German highest credit, and that's the one we pay attention to with regard to all of the Eurozone, and of course our 10-year notes. But there's some significant differences that could save you money if you're trading, or at least keep your risk management nice and tight if you're trying to balance the risk between your portfolios on equities and fixed income. Consider this. Minus 71 basis points, August. I mean, this is unbelievable. We're basically half the rate. But the significant part is right here. Minus 45. Obviously, we traded through it. Our equivalent point in 10-year note yields is 190. We're getting ever closer. And we talked about this in several exchanges, that by blowing through this, you almost assure you're going to test 190. And even though the next level is most likely above 2%, I can't reference enough how important this is in the context of Boone's. And with Christine Lagarde coming in, many are thinking minus 21 isn't going to stop us, that the nervousness in the Eurozone could get us back to zero territory and maybe less on the negative rates in the long end of the German curve. Morgan, back to you.
Rick Santelli, thank you. After the break, FDIC Chair Yelena McWilliams. She's going to join us exclusively in about 2 minutes. Dow's up 116 points. Stay with us.
Robinhood believes now is the time to do money.
At first, we were worried about using purple bricks, but since we sold with them, I haven't been able to stop going on about them, have I, dear?
No, love.
I've been telling everyone. Family, friends, that confused guy at the supermarket.
Yeah, you haven't really shut up about that.
But seriously, did I tell you about our purple bricks estate agent, Michael?
I met him too. He was nice.
We could talk to him whenever. Anything we asked, he could do it.
That's enough now,
He
dear.
was brilliant, always available to chat on the phone.
Enough,
I
Robert.
could email him any time of the day or night.
Purple bricks. You'll be totally sold.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing services cost extra. See website for more details.
Right now, the future is being written by people like you. Creative thinkers, tech lovers, problem solvers. Are you going to stand by and watch? Well, show the world what you've got. Join others around the UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology. And earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards a degree. Don't let the future pass you by. Get involved. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch. A dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Documentaries, I got ones about space, sharks, or superstars. Or how about crime dramas? I've got loads, and they're never gonna guess who did it. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Welcome back. FinTech is in focus as the Money 2020 conference kicks off in Las Vegas this morning. Apple, Facebook, and Amazon all continuing to explore the payment space. And joining us now exclusively with a view from the regulatory side is FDIC Chair Yelena McWilliams. Madam Chair, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. There's a lot of talk of the importance of the consumer to the current economy. So much of consumer spending is what continues to fuel this expansion. So from your seat, regulating the banks with a look at the health of those, including the consumer side, how do things look?
Things look very healthy at this point in time, and that's something that I continuously tell both my staff at the FDIC and to the local bankers as I have embarked on a national listening tour going to every state in the United States, and I've been to about 24 now. As I meet with these banks, I keep on telling them this is the best of the economy, this is as good as things get, and to manage their balance sheets appropriately. But right now, as we look at the markets and we look at the financial conditions at banks, their capital and liquidity level, we're very comfortable that we have a very strong and vibrant banking sector.
Now, Chairwoman, I know that you've been engaged with technology companies, fintech companies, on how they're trying to innovate within the bounds of what keeps the consumer safe as well. And I wonder what the correct principle should be for that, because we see a number of moves, companies trying to become national banks. We see companies partnering with banks to offer savings accounts in ways that they haven't traditionally. What's the principle that you use to think about what should happen and what should be forestalled?
So when I think about innovation in the banking space, I think of two things. One, it's not new. We have had innovation in the banking sector for centuries, frankly, and we should not stifle that. We should actually promote and find a path for innovation to make the banking system better and to reach to more consumers and bring better products and services to the general consumer base. And I also, when I think about innovation, I think about what is the job of the regulators in that space. And frankly, we can be the side of no. If you bring me something new, I could easily say no because we're generally risk averse and we're not really open to new ideas, frankly. Having said that, innovation is happening, whether we like it and whether we approve of it or not. The question is, do we want that innovation to be happening within banks or outside of the banks? Do we find that we can get better protection, both for safety and soundness and consumer protection inside of the banking regulatory framework or with the non-banks and technology companies? And frankly, I think we need to strike the right balance. I believe that innovation will happen, it is happening, and we need to figure out how to make it happen in a safe and sound manner within the banks with requisite consumer protection in mind.
Just to dig into that a little bit more, this idea that data is the new capital, do you believe that's the case? And if so, how is that dictating how you are approaching some of these big questions around regulation?
Data is absolutely the new capital. I said that several times, and I firmly believe that, we used to trade in different assets, and I think now data is one of the preeminent questions for the regulators. How do we use it? How do we allow the institutions to use it? What can be done with data? And frankly, the companies that are not open to considering these questions are the companies that are probably going to be disturbed. There's going to be a disruptor in that space because the system is moving to more data sharing platforms. And anything from the core processors to third-party service providers to banks need to adjust to this new reality. And otherwise, we're not going to have the optimization of the innovation in our banking sector as much as we could.
Chairwoman, I know that it's very unclear at this point exactly where different types of currencies, you might call them cryptocurrencies, fall within the regulatory framework. But I know that also you broadly think about what's safe for consumers and what concerns there might be. So when we look at Facebook looking to support Libra, this currency that it started and now is released sort of into the wild, its Calibra project along the wallet side. Are you comfortable with tech companies making those kinds of moves? And what questions or concerns would you have before something like that goes live in the United States?
So we have learned better than to comment about specific companies or currencies, cryptocurrencies on air. But I will tell you this much. Any company that's looking to engage in something as innovating as crypto assets and cryptocurrencies needs to be thinking very carefully about what the regulatory framework and frankly what the potential for abuse is. And that's something that while the regulators don't want to stifle, at least personally, I don't want to stifle innovation, and I believe the United States of America needs to remain the preeminent place for technology and innovation to happen. At the same time, we do need to consider what abuses are potential in the system, and in some cases, there is a potential for widespread abuses. And until we are comfortable that the companies rolling out these products know what they're doing and know exactly what the spectrum of those abuses and potential for negative things to happen is, we are not going to be comfortable on the regulatory side that this is something that should be rolled out on a broad basis to the consumer base.
Understood. Madam Chair, I appreciate it. FDIC Chair Yelena McWilliams.
Keep your eye on Fitbit this morning. I think we do have a halt in the shares. Reuters is out with a piece saying that Alphabet, the owner of Google, has made an offer to acquire Fitbit as it, quote, eyes a slice of the crowded market for fitness trackers and smartwatches. They're citing people familiar with the matter. 18% gain there, 18.5, in what is obviously a heavily shorted name that has had a journey that's taken it all around the map.
Yeah, I don't know how hard Alphabet is bargaining here, but given where Fitbit has been trading for quite a while, as long as they're not really trying to put the screws to the company, I have to imagine they got to listen to that, because getting taken out by Google and Alphabet is usually an outlook that a lot of companies are looking for.
It's pretty incredible given the fact that Alphabet is under antitrust scrutiny like some of the other big cap tech companies that we talk about. on a daily basis if this is actually true. And I realize that a lot of the scrutiny is not focused on the hardware parts of Google's business, but it really does speak to the fact that these companies have been on a buying binge, potentially, and those strategies are continuing even in the face of this scrutiny from regulators here and abroad.
By the way, Alphabet reports tonight after the bell. GoPro up 6% as well, so some halo effect here. I think Josh Lipton's watching all of this out west. Josh?
Yeah, just interesting, Carl, following up on what you guys are talking about. Reuters making it clear, no certainty that obviously this is going to lead to any kind of deal. We don't have a price either, but obviously Google trying to make potentially here some more moves in these markets, smartwatches and fitness trackers. Certainly another question for investors tonight when Alphabet reports after the bell.
Yeah, you noted, Carl, that GoPro is also up about 6%. I don't know if it's related. Roku is up 8% as well. So to some extent, sometimes these stocks trade together. Spotify also had a good report. Some of these younger companies trying to break into newer areas that investors view as risky. Sometimes when one moves, others can follow.
Not to mention that it's an extremely healthy tape today. Obviously, all-time highs, not just in the S&P, but in big cap names like Apple, JP Morgan, United Tech, Microsoft, all-time highs today. And a weekend where M&A was a big story, whether it's LVMH making this unsolicited bid for Tiffany, got some M&A in the real estate space with Prologis, so a lot of these threads are dovetailing together.
It doesn't hurt that BofA Merrill also had a positive note on Roku.
Yes, that's right. So we'll watch that. In the meantime, men's apparel company Untuckit is growing, announcing its first expansion outside of North America and into London. Set to open 2 stores in the UK ahead of the holiday season. Joining us this morning here at Post 9 is Untuckit's co-founder and CEO, Aaron Sanandras. Congratulations.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to even talk about expansion in brick and mortar apparel. What's driving it?
Well, demand, obviously. So we grew pretty quickly in the U.S. We went from 5 stores 4 years ago to almost 80 stores in North America now. And moving overseas had always been part of our goal. And what we recognized just through online traffic and the feedback that we're getting from in-store personnel is that there is a demand in the UK. But more importantly, there's a need. So there's no alternative shirt in the local market that really does look good untucked.
Is it a comment on the Brits suddenly discovering casual wear?
I think part of it is that. Part of it's just this, there's always been this latent need for what we ultimately provided. And I think as more companies shift to the casual, like we saw in the U.S., I think it'll just become more apparent.
At a time where all of the uncertainty that we've seen for the last several years now around Brexit has factored into many businesses' decisions, did that factor into your decision to expand in that market specifically, or no?
Well, it obviously we thought about it, but similar to what we did in the U.S. So we launched stores in the U.S. in the midst of the retail apocalypse, but our stores are smaller, a little bit more nimble, and we're able to survive and to thrive. So in the UK, yes, Brexit is an uncertainty that we're well aware of, but the UK market is strong. There's 20% of commerce in the UK is done online, which plays in really well to a D2C brand like ourselves. And as I started, there is the need in the UK. We're pretty certain of that.
What have you learned about the way the brand translates to women? Because arguably women have been looking good, wearing shirts untucked for a long time. Were women buying these shirts for men? Were men buying them for themselves? How did the women's line come across?
So women had always been a significant portion of our consumer base, about 30%, so buying typically for men. And we started to get a lot of requests from the women that were buying for men to launch a women's line. And that's basically all of our product expansion, at least most of it, comes from specific requests from the consumer. Women's was no different. We just needed to think about how to style it a little bit differently. And if you look at our women's line, it is styled very differently than our men's.
In terms of the sales breakdown more broadly, how much of it is happening online? How much of it is happening in your brick and mortar locations?
So we're still more heavily weighted towards online than we are in brick and mortar, but the more stores we open, the more that kind of flattens out. I think ultimately we'll end up at 50-50 because there's this semi-symbiotic relationship between stores. So you open a store, it acts as kind of a geographical gravitational pull for consumers, but those consumers find their way back online. And so it's called the halo effect. There's a lot of kind of empirical data around it, but we have our own data. We know that wherever we open a store, online sales in that market, 30-minute drive time, however you want to define it, outpaces online sales in markets where we don't have stores.
I was going to ask about your supply chains. Are you subject to some of the other tariff issues that apparel makers have been focusing on?
We are. Unfortunately, we are. We're kind of caught right up in that. I think what we've been able to do is shift some of our production to non-tariff originating destinations. And the factories that we work with are large enough that they can kind of shuffle their client base. European clients move into China. We move kind of some of our production out of China. But we are not planning on increasing prices as a result. It's hopefully a temporary policy change, and it's difficult to price around policy.
To what extent does your e-commerce route influence how much inventory you keep and what inventory you keep? Are you able to be any sharper about that, you think, than a traditional retailer?
Well, it's interesting. So I would say from an online perspective, yes, right? We grew up online. We're really good at kind of just-in-time inventory. As you open stores, it is a challenge for a D2C brand to manage inventory the way some of the legacy retailers are. So things like buy online, pick up in store, ship from store, which would be from an inventory management perspective, pretty much a game changer. I think the D2C brands are a bit lagging in terms of the evolution. We'll be there in 2020. We'll be shipping from stores. And once we do, I think we'll be able to manage inventory really well.
Lastly, plans to go public? Do you have any?
At this point, no. I think we want to grow the business in a way that we're not catering to any specific exit and give ourselves, hopefully, the flexibility to make that decision.
That stuff looks great. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
And we'll be watching you guys closely, whether you're public or not. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get back now to Fitbit. We mentioned that the stock was halted. It is trading again right around 29% higher at this hour on those reports that Alphabet has made an offer. We've had Fitbit on many times, and they've talked about themselves as a player that's not locked into just one ecosystem, Apple versus Android. Also talked about the fact that they do play very well in Android, where the Apple Watch does not play. They've put out not just your wearable trackers, but also a smart watch component where, Samsung has had something like that ties in with Samsung's part of the ecosystem. But as